Ambassador Karen Hughes woke up early the next morning with a sense of purpose. After Lisa's discovery the night before, everything made sense. The fear, the isolation, the careful treatment. The galaxy saw humans as dangerous creatures from a nightmare world. Well, if they wanted to have that conversation, she was ready. She put on her formal diplomatic uniform and met the others for breakfast. The same gray paste from dinner was waiting for them in their quarters. None of them bothered to eat it. "I've been thinking about our approach," Karen said as they prepared for the council meeting. "They're scared of us, but they still invited us here. That means they want something, or they're trying to contain a threat. Either way, we need to understand their perspective before we can change it." Jake adjusted his jacket. "Agreed, let's hear what they have to say. But if they plan to keep treating us like dangerous animals, we're leaving. Earth doesn't need the council's approval to exist." At 9 o'clock, the same nervous Thrixel from the night before arrived to escort them. The poor creature kept as much distance as possible while still technically guiding them through the station. They passed through corridors filled with aliens who stopped to stare or hurried away. Lisa tried to smile at a few of them, but it only seemed to make things worse. The council chamber was breathtaking. A massive dome stretched overhead, showing the stars beyond through transparent sections. Representatives from 200 species sat in curved rows that formed a circle around a central platform. The humans were led to a section that had reinforced walls and what looked like a barely visible energy field, separating it from the rest of the chamber. "We're in a cage," Chris muttered. "A very polite cage," Karen replied. "But yes, a cage." High Counselor Ven floated into the center of the chamber. The alien looked like a jellyfish made of light, with long tentacles that pulsed with different colors. Its voice came through speakers placed around the room, deep and echoing. "Welcome, delegates from Earth. We are grateful you have traveled so far to meet with us. Today we wish to discuss your world and your species, so that we may better understand each other." Karen stepped forward to the edge of their section. "High Counselor, we are honored to be here. However, we have noticed some unusual treatment since our arrival. We would appreciate honesty about how the Council views humanity." The colors on Ven's body shifted to a deep blue. "You are direct. This is noted in our files about your species." "Very well, we shall be equally direct." The High Counselor gestured with a tentacle, and a large holographic display appeared above the central platform. "In the galaxy, we classify worlds by their danger level. This helps us understand the challenges species face in their evolution. Most of our member species evolved on what we call Class 3 to Class 5 worlds. These are planets with stable environments, moderate gravity, and relatively peaceful ecosystems. The display showed images of beautiful planets with gentle landscapes, calm oceans, and friendly-looking plants and animals. Your world, Earth, is different. The display changed to show Earth from space. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. It is the most dangerous planet we have ever encountered that produced intelligent life. The chamber filled with murmurs from the assembled aliens. Some looked at the humans with obvious fear. Others seemed curious. "Let me show you why," Ven continued. The display began showing comparisons. Earth's oxygen levels appeared next to the average for the galaxy. Your atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. For most species here, breathing your air for more than a few minutes would cause severe poisoning. Many of us would die within an hour. Next came gravity comparisons. Earth's gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. The average for inhabited worlds is 4.2. Your gravity would crush most species in this room. Even our strongest members would struggle to walk on your surface. Lisa whispered to Jake. "I never thought about it that way." To them, Earth really is extreme. The display continued with weather patterns. Images of hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, and floods appeared. Your world experiences weather events that would be considered apocalyptic disasters on most planets. Yet your species evolved to survive them as routine occurrences. Then came the really uncomfortable part. The display showed Earth's animals. Lions hunting zebras, crocodiles attacking prey, great white sharks breaching the water, bears catching salmon, snakes striking at rodents. Your planet has millions of species engaged in constant predation. The food chain on Earth is built on violence. Species evolve to kill or to avoid being killed. There is no neutral ground. The aliens in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. Some made sounds of distress that the translators didn't bother to interpret. "And then there are humans," Ven said quietly. The display showed human hunters tracking prey across vast distances. It showed ancient humans bringing down mammoths. It showed marathon runners, mountain climbers, deep-sea divers. It showed humans eating peppers and hot sauce. Capsaicin is a neurotoxin that plants evolved to prevent mammals from eating them, Ben explained. Most species would experience severe pain from even trace amounts. Humans consume it for pleasure. This is what you call spicy food. Some aliens in the chamber made sounds of shock and disgust. The presentation continued, showing human medical procedures. Surgeries that would kill most species. Diseases humans survived that were considered death sentences in the galaxy. Injuries humans recovered from that seemed impossible. You have bones that can heal after breaking, skin that repairs itself, immune systems that fight off infections that would devastate entire planets. You are, by galactic standards, incredibly difficult to kill. Then came human history. Wars spanning thousands of years. Cities destroyed and rebuilt. Empires rising and falling. Humans surviving ice ages, plagues, famines, and countless disasters. Jake felt his jaw tighten as he watched. They were being portrayed as violent monsters. Yes, humanity had fought wars, but they had also created art, music, literature, and philosophy. Where was that part of the presentation? You are predators, Ben concluded. The chamber went completely silent. You evolved at the top of your food chain. You have binocular vision for tracking prey. You have persistence hunting abilities unmatched in the galaxy. You have teeth designed for tearing meat. Your hands can grip weapons with precision. Your brains are wired for strategy and violence. Karen felt anger rising in her chest. High Counselor, with respect, you are reducing humanity to one aspect of our evolution. Yes, we evolved as predators, but we also evolved empathy, cooperation, and creativity. We have philosophy, art, and science. We have chosen peace more often than war. Have you? Another alien spoke up, a tall being with crystalline skin. Your last major war ended only 80 years ago. 50 million of your own species died. You created weapons that could destroy your entire planet. Even now, Earth spends more on military than most of your other priorities combined. Chris stepped forward. We spend on military because our world taught us that threats are real. But we also spend on medicine, education, space exploration, and helping each other. You're only looking at our capacity for violence and ignoring everything else. Ven's colors shifted again. We do not ignore these things. We know humans can be kind, creative, and cooperative. But you must understand our position. In the entire history of the Galactic Council, we have never admitted a predator species from a Class 12 death world. We have rules and protocols designed for civilized beings from peaceful worlds. You are something we have no experience with. So what? Lisa asked. You're going to keep us separated forever? Treat us like dangerous animals? We are being cautious, Ven replied. Surely you understand. You are stronger, faster, and more resilient than any species here. Your planet trained you to survive conditions that would kill us. We must take precautions. Karen took a deep breath. This was the moment that mattered. What you're describing isn't diplomacy. It's discrimination based on fear. You invited us here, but you don't want us as equals. You want us as curiosities behind glass. We want to ensure the safety of all council members. A bird-like alien interjected. No offense is intended. But offense is given, Jake said firmly. We came here in good faith. We followed your protocols. We've been nothing but respectful. And in return, we're treated like bombs waiting to explode. The chamber erupted in multiple conversations at once, aliens arguing with each other, gesturing at the humans or at the displays still floating overhead. Ven raised multiple tentacles for silence. This is precisely why we needed this discussion, the High Counselor said. We cannot move forward without addressing these concerns directly. Before anyone could respond, a piercing alarm cut through the chamber. Red lights began flashing along the walls. The displays vanished, replaced by tactical information. A mechanical voice announced, Alert, unidentified vessel detected. All stations to defense protocols. Ven's colors flashed to bright red. What is happening? One of the alien officials checked a console. A ship just emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system. No identification codes. They're broadcasting a message. The official's face went pale. It's the Kralix. The chamber filled with sounds of panic. Aliens rushed from their seats toward the exits. Some were crying out in fear. Who are the Kralix? Lisa asked a nearby alien, a small mammalian creature. The council members stared in shock as Karen tied up all three raiders using their own equipment. She wasn't even breathing hard. Come on, she said to the stunned aliens. Let's keep moving. As they walked, the small crystalline being spoke quietly. "You protected us. We are not your species. We have shown you nothing but suspicion and fear. Yet you protected us." Karen looked down at the alien. "That's what humans do. When someone needs help, we help. It doesn't matter if you're human or not. It doesn't matter if you've been kind to us. What matters is that you need protection, and we can provide it." 90 minutes after the Kralix first boarded, the battle was over. Every raider had been captured or neutralized. Not a single civili. Commander Chris Palmer moved through the corridors of Nexus Station with 15 armed humans behind him. They had retrieved weapons from the horizon in under 5 minutes. The armory on the ship held enough equipment for exactly this kind of situation, even though they had hoped they would never need it. The station's security forces watched in confusion as the humans organized. The aliens held weapons that looked more like tools than actual combat gear. Their formations were loose, their movements uncertain. They were diplomats and peacekeepers, not soldiers. "Listen up," Chris addressed both his team and the alien security forces. "The Kralix are going to breach at 3 points based on the sensor readings. They'll expect chaos and panic. They'll expect easy targets. We're not going to give them that." A tall alien with 4 arms stepped forward. He wore what appeared to be a security uniform, but his weapon hung awkwardly at his side. "Commander Palmer, we appreciate your assistance, but we have never engaged in actual combat. Our training is for crowd control and minor disputes. We don't know how to fight." "Then stay behind us and follow our lead," Chris said. "Protect the civilians, get them to shelter, let us handle the raiders." The alien nodded gratefully and rushed off to organize evacuations. Chris turned to his team. "Remember, we're protecting these people. Rules of engagement are clear. Disable when possible, eliminate when necessary. These raiders chose violence. We're just showing them what violence looks like when humans are involved." 15 minutes. After the alarm started, the Kralix boarding craft breached the hull in 3 locations. The aliens that poured out were roughly humanoid but taller, and covered in thick gray skin that looked like armor. They carried weapons that crackled with energy. Their eyes glowed red in the dim light of the corridors. The first group of Kralix encountered the station's security forces at Corridor Junction 7. The aliens tried to form a defensive line, holding up their stunners and shouting warnings. The Kralix laughed and fired. Energy bolts sent the security forces scattering. Within seconds, the raiders had pushed through and were advancing deeper into the station. Then they ran into Chris Palmer. The humans were positioned at a narrow corridor intersection, using the station's architecture to their advantage. When the first Kralix rounded the corner, Chris shot him in the chest. The raider went down hard. The second one managed to raise his weapon before 3 bullets hit him. The third started to retreat. "Don't let them regroup," Chris ordered. His team advanced in a coordinated formation that would have been standard for any human military force, but looked like a choreographed dance to the watching aliens. They moved in pairs, covering each other, clearing corners, communicating with hand signals. The Kralix had never encountered resistance like this. They were used to raiding stations where the inhabitants ran away or surrendered. They were not prepared for prey that hunted back. Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Grant had other problems. She had made it to the civilian shelters where thousands of aliens huddled in fear. Many were injured from the panic during the initial breach. Some had been trampled in the rush to escape. Others had been hit by debris when the hull was breached. Lisa looked around at the chaos. Dozens of species, each with different biology, each with different medical needs. Some breathed oxygen. Others needed methane or hydrogen. Some had blood. Others had entirely different circulatory systems. It should have been impossible to help them all. But Lisa had trained on Earth, where emergency medicine was developed through centuries of disasters, wars, and accidents. She knew how to think under pressure. She knew how to prioritize. She knew how to save lives. "I need volunteers," she called out. "Anyone with medical training or first aid knowledge." A few brave aliens stepped forward. Lisa quickly organized them into triage teams. Breathing problems first, then major bleeding, then broken bones. Ignore minor injuries for now. We save the ones who will die without immediate help. She worked fast, moving from patient to patient. a Kalon with a ruptured membrane, a Thrixil with a cracked carapace, and Avix with a crushed wing. Her hands moved with confidence, applying pressure here, stabilizing there, making quick decisions about who needed help most urgently. The alien volunteers watched in amazement. Lisa's knowledge of xenobiology was comprehensive, but it was her decisiveness that impressed them most. She didn't hesitate. She didn't panic. She just worked. "How do you stay so calm?" asked a young, mammalian alien named Kira, who was helping Lisa with a patient. "I'm not calm," Lisa replied while sealing a wound on a wounded alien. "I'm terrified, but I learned a long time ago that panic doesn't save lives. Action does." She looked up at Kira. "On Earth, we have a saying. When things are at their worst, that's when you need to be at your best." Back in the corridors, Jake Morrison had joined up with another team to defend the station's control center. The Kralix were trying to capture it to shut down life support and force a surrender. Jake wasn't going to let that happen. He positioned his team at a bottleneck, a single corridor that led to the control center. The Kralix would have to come through here to reach their objective. It was a perfect defensive position. "Captain, there are at least 30 raiders heading this way," his tactical officer reported. "Good," Jake replied. "Means they're all coming to us instead of hunting civilians." The Kralix appeared at the far end of the corridor. They saw one human standing in their path and laughed. Their leader, a massive alien with scars covering his face, raised his weapon. "Move aside, little prey, or die." Jake didn't move. "I'm giving you one chance. Turn around and leave this station. You're not taking anyone today." The Kralix leader found this hilarious. His entire group joined in the laughter. "You think you can stop us? You're a lone human. We are many." Jake smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered its prey. "I'm not alone, and you should have read more about humans before coming here." The Kralix fired. Jake dove behind cover as energy bolts scorched the walls. What the raiders didn't know was that Jake's team was hidden in side corridors and ventilation shafts all around them. They had walked into a trap. "Now," Jake said into his communicator. Humans emerged from every direction. The Kralix suddenly found themselves surrounded and taking fire from multiple angles. Their formation collapsed into chaos. They tried to retreat, but the humans had blocked the exits. The fight was brutal but short. The Kralix were tough and well-armed, but they fought as individuals. The humans fought as a unit. Every move was coordinated. Every shot counted. Within 5 minutes, the raiders were either unconscious or surrendering. Jake stood over the Kralix leader, who was now on his knees with his hands behind his head. "I told you to leave. You should have listened." In the council chamber, Ambassador Karen Hughes was dealing with her own crisis. Several council members had been trapped when the raiders breached nearby. They couldn't reach the shelters in time. Karen had found them hiding in a conference room, terrified and unable to move. "We need to get you to safety," Karen told them. "We cannot move," a Quellan counselor said, its gelatinous body quivering. "We are too afraid. The raiders could be anywhere." Karen looked at the group. 8 aliens, none of them capable of defending themselves, all paralyzed by fear. She understood. They had never experienced real danger before. Violence was something that happened in history files, not in their peaceful civilization. "Listen to me," Karen said firmly. "I know you're scared, but I'm going to get you out of here. All of you, I promise." "How?" asked a small crystalline being. "You're just one person." "I'm a human," Karen replied. "And humans are very good at keeping their promises." She organized the group, putting the smaller aliens in the middle and the larger ones on the outside. She took point, leading them through the corridors. When they encountered debris, Karen simply picked up aliens who couldn't climb over it and carried them. Her muscles, built by Earth's heavy gravity, made it easy to lift beings who weighed very little by her standards. They were halfway to the shelter when they ran into 3 Kralix raiders. The aliens froze in terror. The raiders raised their weapons, grinning at the easy targets. Karen stepped in front of her group. "You're not touching them." The raiders looked at each other and laughed. Human female thinks she's strong. This will be fun. The lead raider reached for Karen. She grabbed his arm, used his momentum against him, and flipped him over her shoulder into the wall. The second raider fired his weapon. Karen dove, rolled, and came up inside his reach. A hard punch to his throat dropped him gasping to the floor. The third raider actually looked scared now. He tried to run. Karen tackled him from behind. The council chamber was packed. Every delegate from every species had gathered for the emergency session. What had happened with the Kralix raiders could not be ignored. The attack had shattered the peaceful image the council had maintained for decades. More importantly, it had revealed just how unprepared they were for real threats, and it had shown them what humans were capable of. Jake Morrison stood with his crew in their designated section. The energy barrier that had separated them before was gone. The council had removed it during repairs to the station. Now the humans stood among the other delegates, though a noticeable space still surrounded them. High Counselor Venn called the session to order. We gather today to discuss two matters of critical importance. First, the security failures that allowed the Kralix to attack us so easily. Second, the role of humanity in the Galactic Council going forward. A reptilian delegate stood up. High Counselor, I wish to commend the humans for their actions. They saved many lives, including my own aide. Without their intervention, the casualties would have been catastrophic. Several other delegates voiced their agreement, but not everyone was pleased. A tall alien with silver skin rose to speak. Yes, the humans helped us, but let us be honest about what we witnessed. They engaged in violence with efficiency that should terrify us. They killed Kralix raiders without hesitation. They used tactics and weapons we don't even allow on this station. Are we truly comfortable inviting such a species into our civilization? They killed raiders who were trying to kill us, another delegate argued. Would you prefer they had asked the Kralix nicely to leave? The chamber erupted into arguments. Some delegates praised the humans. Others expressed fear about what they had seen. Still others seemed unsure how to feel. Ambassador Karen Hughes raised her hand. Venn gestured for her to speak. Members of the council, Karen began. I understand your confusion. This morning you showed us why you fear humanity. You cataloged our violent history, our predatory evolution, our dangerous world. You treated us like threats that needed to be contained. Then the Kralix attacked, and you saw us use exactly the violence you feared. So now you're torn. You're grateful we saved you, but you're also scared of what it means to have us here. The chamber fell silent. Karen's words had struck at the heart of their dilemma. Let me be clear, Karen continued. We are predators. We evolved to hunt. We come from a world that kills the weak and rewards the strong. Everything you said this morning about humanity was true, but you left out the most important part. She paused, looking around the chamber. Predators are not monsters. We're survivors, and survivors understand something that species from peaceful worlds often forget. The universe is not safe just because you want it to be. Peace is not the natural state of things. Peace is something you have to actively protect. But at what cost? The silver-skinned delegate asked. You want us to become like you? Violent and militaristic? No, Jake spoke up. We want you to be able to defend yourselves. The Kralix knew this station had no real defenses. They knew you were peaceful and unprepared. That's why they attacked. Your peace made you targets, Dr. Lisa Grant added. On Earth, we have an old saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. It sounds harsh, but it's true. The best way to avoid violence is to be ready for it. That way, enemies think twice before attacking. A small mammalian delegate stood up. Jake recognized her as Kira, the young alien who had helped Lisa in the medical bay during the attack. She looked nervous but determined. May I speak? Kira asked. Venn gestured approval. Delegate Kira of Valora, you have the floor. Kira walked to the center of the chamber. Her voice shook slightly as she began. I worked with Dr. Grant during the attack. I watched her save lives for hours without stopping. I saw her treat species she had never met before, using knowledge and skills that seemed impossible. She was calm, efficient, and kind even in the middle of chaos. The young delegate's voice grew stronger. I also saw Commander Palmer and his team fight the raiders. I saw Captain Morrison defend the control center. I saw Ambassador Hughes carry council members to safety while taking down raiders with her bare hands. And I realized something that I think many of you are missing. Kira turned to face the assembled delegates directly. Warning, humans are predators, not prey. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs at her sudden shout. But Kira wasn't finished. "But you're so busy being afraid of them that you don't understand what that means." Her voice rang out clearly now, all nervousness gone. "Yes, they evolved to hunt. Yes, they're strong and fast and efficient at violence. But you know what else predators are? Protective." She pulled up a holographic display showing footage from the attack. "Look at this. Dr. Grant throwing herself over a wounded Thrixel when debris fell. Commander Palmer drawing fire away from security forces who had no training. Captain Morrison holding a corridor alone so civilians could evacuate. Ambassador Hughes risking her life for council members she had met only yesterday." The footage showed moment after moment of humans putting themselves in danger to protect others. Predators. Protect their pack, Kira said passionately. "That's how they evolved. That's in their nature just as much as hunting is. And today they chose to make all of us their pack." The chamber was completely silent now. Every eye was on the young delegate. "You've been treating them like they're monsters waiting to snap," Kira continued. "Keeping them isolated. Giving them tasteless food. Watching them like they might attack at any moment. But humans don't work that way. Yes, they're dangerous, but dangerous to threats, not to friends." She turned to look at the human delegation. Humans bonded with wolves, one of their planet's apex predators, and turned them into companions. They care for animals that serve no purpose except to make them happy. They have empathy that crosses species lines. They cry over creatures that aren't even real in their entertainment. They chose to come here in peace even though they could probably conquer half the galaxy if they wanted to. Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes. This young alien understood them better after one day than the entire council had after decades of observation. "They're dangerous, yes," Kira said firmly, "but dangerous to threats, not to friends. We need to stop treating them like a problem to be managed and start treating them like what they are. The strongest allies we could possibly have. Because the Kralix won't be the last threat we face. There will be others, and I would much rather have humans fighting beside us than watching from behind an energy barrier." The young delegate sat down. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly, one delegate began to clap. Then another. Then dozens. Soon the entire chamber was filled with the sound of approval, expressed in dozens of different ways by dozens of different species. Jake looked at his crew. Chris had a slight smile. Lisa was wiping her eyes. Karen stood tall, her expression one of quiet pride. High Counselor Ven's colors shifted to a warm golden hue. Delegate Kira speaks with wisdom beyond her years. Perhaps we have been asking the wrong questions. The question is not whether humans are predators. They clearly are. The question is whether we are worthy of their protection. Another delegate stood, an elderly insectoid with a kind face. "High Counselor, I propose we vote immediately on granting full membership to Earth. No restrictions, no special protocols. Full equality in the Galactic Council." "I second this proposal," said another voice. "And I," said a third. Soon dozens of delegates were voicing their support, but not everyone agreed. The silver-skinned delegate stood again. "High Counselor, I must object. We are making decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Yes, the humans helped us today, but that doesn't change the fundamental danger they represent. We are talking about admitting an apex predator species from the most dangerous world ever recorded into a civilization built by peaceful beings. What happens when they decide we're not their pack anymore? What happens when they turn those weapons on us?" Jake stepped forward. "Then you would see why humans are called humanity. We don't betray our friends. We don't abandon our allies. When a human gives their word, they keep it. When a human makes a promise, they honor it. You can put whatever restrictions you want on our membership. You can monitor us. You can doubt us. But you'll never find humans breaking faith with those who trust them." "Bold words," the silver delegate replied. "But history is full of species that said similar things before betraying their allies." "Then watch us," Chris said simply. "Judge us by our actions, not your fears. We've been here less than 2 days and we've already proven we'll bleed to protect you. How much more proof do you need?" The chamber descended into debate. Arguments flew back and forth. Some delegates wanted immediate acceptance of humanity. Others wanted years of probation and observation. Still others wanted to maintain the current restrictions, indefinitely. Ambassador Karen Hughes listened to them argue for nearly an hour, before she finally stood and raised her voice. "Enough." Her single word cut through the chaos. "Members of the council, you're afraid of making the wrong decision. I understand that. But while you debate, real threats are still out there. The Kralix might return with more ships. Other raiders might see how easy it was to breach this station. Every moment you remain unprepared is a moment your people are in danger. She looked. 3 months had passed since the vote that changed everything. The Nexus station looked different now. Human security advisors worked alongside alien forces, teaching them tactics and defensive strategies. The corridors that once emptied when humans approached now buzzed with mixed groups of species working together. Dr. Lisa Grant stood in the medical training center, surrounded by 30 alien medical personnel from a dozen different species. They watched intently as she demonstrated a new triage procedure. The key is speed combined with accuracy, Lisa explained, her hands moving over a practice dummy designed to simulate Thrixil anatomy. In mass casualty situations, you can't save everyone immediately. You have to identify who needs help most urgently and who can wait. A young Avix doctor raised a wing. Dr. Grant, this approach seems harsh. How do you decide who to help first when all are suffering? Lisa smiled gently. I know it seems cold, but the goal is to save the most lives possible. If you spend an hour trying to save someone who's already dying, 3 other people who could have survived might die waiting for help. It's not about being harsh. It's about being effective. She walked among the students. On Earth, we learned these techniques the hard way. Through wars, natural disasters, accidents. We had to learn fast because our world didn't give us much choice. But now we can share what we learned so you don't have to learn it the same way. After the class, Kira approached Lisa with a data pad. The young Valoran had become something of a student and friend to Lisa over the past months. Dr. Grant, I've been reading about Earth medicine. Some of the procedures seem impossible. You remove entire organs and replace them. You can restart a heart after it stops. You perform surgery inside someone's brain while they're still conscious. Lisa nodded. Earth's hostility made us very good at fixing what gets broken. When your world is constantly trying to kill you, you either get good at medicine or you die out. It's remarkable, Kira said quietly, but also sad. You had to endure so much suffering to gain this knowledge. True, Lisa agreed, but now that suffering serves a purpose, every alien I teach means fewer deaths in the future. Every technique I share means someone somewhere will survive something they wouldn't have before. Our pain has meaning now. Across the station, Commander Chris Palmer was running combat drills with a mixed unit of humans and aliens. The difference from 3 months ago was dramatic. The alien security forces no longer panicked under pressure. They moved with purpose, followed orders, and actually looked like they could defend themselves. Better, Chris called out as the team completed a corridor-clearing exercise. Much better. You're thinking tactically now instead of just reacting. Thrix, good call on that flanking move. Vox, nice work covering your partner. A 4-armed alien named Vox approached Chris after the drill. Commander, I must admit I was skeptical about these training sessions. I thought they would make us more violent, more like... Forgive me, more like humans. Chris raised an eyebrow. And now? Now I understand the difference between being violent and being capable of violence, Vox replied. You taught us that strength used wisely prevents conflict rather than causing it. The raiders have not returned because they know we can fight back now. Peace through strength, as you say. Peace through strength, Chris echoed. It's not a perfect solution, but it works better than hoping threats will ignore you. In the diplomatic wing, Ambassador Karen Hughes met with a delegation from the Valoran homeworld. They wanted to establish a formal defense treaty with Earth, the first of what Karen hoped would be many such agreements. Ambassador Hughes, the lead Valoran diplomat, began. Our world has been peaceful for over 1,000 years. We have no military, no weapons, no defensive infrastructure, but recent events have shown us that the galaxy is more dangerous than we believed. We need help. Karen reviewed the treaty proposal on her datapad. Your world is offering trade benefits, resource sharing, and cultural exchange in return for Earth providing military advisors and defensive support? Yes, the diplomat confirmed. We know we cannot become warriors overnight. Our people are not built for combat. But perhaps we don't need to be if we have allies who are. Karen looked up from the pad. Can I be honest with you? Please. This is exactly what Earth hoped for when we joined the Council. Not to dominate or control, but to form genuine partnerships. You focus on what you're good at, science, art, philosophy, and we'll help protect you so you can continue doing those things. Everyone benefits. The Valoran diplomat's expression softened. 3 months ago, we were terrified of humans. Now we're inviting you to our homeworld. It's quite a change. People fear what they don't understand, Karen said. Once you got to know us, you realized we're not so scary. Well, not to friends anyway. The diplomat laughed, a musical sound. To friends. I like that distinction. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the Horizon, watching supply ships come and go from the station. His first officer, Lieutenant Dan Cooper, joined him with a status report. Captain, we've received 17 more requests for human advisors from Council worlds. Command back on Earth is scrambling to train enough people to meet the demand. Apparently everyone wants humans on their security teams now. Jake smiled slightly. 3 months ago, they wouldn't let us eat in the same room as them. Now they can't get enough of us. The pendulum swings, Dan observed. Do you think it might swing too far? That they'll start depending on us too much? That's a concern, Jake admitted. We're not here to be the galaxy's army. We're here to be partners. But I think as long as we focus on teaching rather than doing everything for them, we'll find the right balance. Dan handed Jake a message. This came in from High Counselor Venn. They want you to address the full council next week about expanding the human presence on council stations. Jake read the message and nodded. The galaxy is changing fast. Let's hope we can keep up. That evening, the humans gathered in what had become their informal meeting space, a lounge area that now welcomed aliens who wanted to socialize. The room was full of mixed groups, humans and aliens sharing meals, stories, and laughter. Lisa sat with Kira and several other young aliens who were fascinated by Earth culture. They peppered her with questions about everything from human food to human entertainment to human relationships. Is it true humans form permanent romantic bonds with only one other human? A small Quellen asked. Lisa laughed. Well, many do. It's called marriage. But not everyone does it, and the rules vary by culture. Earth has hundreds of different cultures, each with their own traditions. Hundreds? Kira looked amazed. On Valora, we have one unified culture. How do humans not fight constantly with so many different ways of living? Oh, we do fight, Lisa admitted. Or we did frequently. But we also learned that diversity makes us stronger. Different perspectives, different ideas, different approaches to problems. We're better together than we would be if everyone thought the same way. Chris joined a group playing some kind of strategy game that combined human chess with an alien board game. He was losing badly to a Thrixel named Crix who had picked up human tactics frighteningly fast. You're getting too good at this, Chris complained as Crix captured another of his pieces. You taught me to think 3 moves ahead, Crix clicked cheerfully. I'm thinking 5 moves ahead now. Remind me not to create more tactical geniuses, Chris muttered. But he was smiling. Karen sat with a group of diplomats discussing the long-term implications of Earth's Council membership. The conversations ranged from trade agreements to cultural exchange programs to joint scientific research. The real question, an elderly diplomat said, is how the galaxy will change now that humanity is part of it. You're already influencing how we think about security, medicine, even entertainment. In 50 years, will the galaxy still recognize itself? Change isn't bad, Karen replied. And it goes both ways. Earth is learning from the Council too. Your technologies, your philosophies, your peaceful approaches to conflict resolution. We're not replacing your civilization. We're adding to it. Jake made his rounds through the room, checking in with his crew and meeting new aliens who wanted to introduce themselves. The difference from their first night on the station was incredible. No more fear, no more barriers, no more isolation. A message came through on Jake's communicator. He stepped away to a quiet corner to read it. It was from Earth Command marked urgent. Captain Morrison, be advised that several Council worlds have reported increased pirate activity in their sectors. The raiders are getting bolder, possibly in response to Earth's membership creating new opportunities for theft and ransom. The Council has requested Earth's assistance in coordinating a multi-species task force to address the threat. You are being considered to lead this operation. More details to follow. Jake closed the message and looked around the room. His crew mingling with aliens. Species that had feared them now laughing with them. A civilization that had nearly rejected them now asking for their help. This was just the beginning. He walked over to where his core team had gathered. Lisa, Chris, and Karen looked up as he approached. We've got a new mission, Jake said quietly. Multiple Council worlds are dealing with increased raider activity. They want us to lead a task force to handle it. Chris straightened. How big a task force? Big enough. Multiple. The stars looked different from the observation deck of the horizon. Captain Jake Morrison pressed his hand against the cool glass and watched the massive space station grow larger as they approached. Nexus Station hung in orbit around a green and blue planet, its metal surface gleaming under the light of two distant suns. This was it, humanity's first real invitation to join the galaxy. Jake turned to look at his crew. Dr. Lisa Grant stood nearby, her tablet filled with notes about alien biology. She had studied every species in the Galactic Council for the past year, memorizing their customs and physical needs. Commander Chris Palmer checked his uniform for the third time, making sure everything was perfect. Ambassador Karen Hughes reviewed her speech, her lips moving silently as she practiced the words. "Captain, we're being hailed by station control," the communications officer said. Jake walked back to his command chair. "Put them through." The screen flickered to life. An alien face appeared covered in blue feathers with large yellow eyes. The creature's beak opened and closed as it spoke, but the translation device turned the sounds into clear English. "Earth Vessel Horizon, you are cleared for docking at Port 7. Please proceed slowly and follow the guidance beacons. Welcome to Nexus Station." "Thank you, Control. We're honored to be here," Jake replied. The docking process took 20 minutes. Jake felt his heart beat faster as the ship connected to the station with a soft thump. This was really happening. After decades of Earth being watched from a distance, they were finally being welcomed. The airlock door hissed open. Jake stepped through first, followed by his crew. The corridor beyond was huge, with ceilings at least 20 feet high. The walls glowed with a soft blue light. Signs in dozens of alien languages pointed in different directions. A small group of aliens waited to greet them. The blue-feathered creature from the screen stepped forward. It was barely 4 feet tall, and Jake had to look down to meet its eyes. "Welcome, Captain Morrison. I am Delegate Shrix of the Avic species. We are pleased to have you here." The alien's voice was high and musical through the translator. "Thank you, Delegate Shrix. It's an honor to finally meet face to face." Jake extended his hand for a handshake, a gesture they had been told was acceptable. Shrix looked at Jake's hand for a long moment before reaching out with a 3-fingered appendage. The handshake was brief and awkward. Jake noticed that Shrix's feathers had fluffed up slightly, making the alien look bigger. "If you will follow me, I will show you to your quarters," Shrix said, already turning away. They walked through the station's corridors. Jake noticed something strange right away. Everywhere they went, aliens stopped and stared. Some pressed themselves against the walls as the humans passed. Others hurried away in the opposite direction. A group of tall, thin aliens with silver skin saw them coming and quickly disappeared through a side door. Lisa leaned close to Jake. "Is it just me? Or are they acting scared of us?" "I noticed it too," Chris whispered back. "They're treating us like we're dangerous." The quarters they were assigned were in a section of the station that seemed empty. The rooms were large and comfortable, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they had been placed far away from everyone else on purpose. "The welcome dinner will begin in 2 hours," Shrix informed them. "Someone will come to escort you to the dining hall. Please make yourselves comfortable." The alien left quickly as if eager to get away. Jake looked around the empty corridor. Well, that was odd. 2 hours later, another alien arrived to escort them. This one was insect-like, with a hard shell and 6 legs. It walked on 4 legs and used the other 2 like arms. Its face had multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. The translator identified it as a Thrixil. "Please follow me to the dining hall," the Thrixil said in a buzzing voice. It kept a distance of at least 10 feet from the humans as it led them through the corridors. The dining hall was enormous. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of species sat at long tables. The room fell silent as the humans entered. Every eye turned to look at them. Jake felt like a specimen under a microscope. They were led to a table near the back of the room, separated from the nearest aliens by at least 20 feet. Servers brought them food, but it was nothing like what the other species were eating. While the aliens enjoyed dishes that smelled wonderful and looked colorful, the humans were given bowls of gray paste. Karen picked up her spoon and examined the paste. "What is this supposed to be?" Lisa tasted it carefully. "Nutritionally complete, but completely flavorless. It's like they're afraid to give us real food." Jake watched a server place a beautiful plate of what looked like roasted vegetables in front of a nearby alien. The smell made his mouth water. He raised his hand to get the server's attention. The server, another Avix, approached nervously. Yes, human. I was wondering if we could try some of the other dishes being served. Everything looks wonderful. The server's feathers fluffed up in alarm. I apologize, but we were instructed to provide you with this safe nutritional supplement. We were not certain what foods would be appropriate for your species. We're pretty flexible eaters, Jake said with a friendly smile. I'm sure anything you serve the other delegates would be fine for us. The server took a step back. I will ask my supervisor. It hurried away quickly. Chris leaned back in his chair. Something is very wrong here. They're terrified of us, but why? Lisa asked. We've been nothing but polite. We followed every protocol they sent us. What did we do wrong? Karen shook her head. I don't think we did anything wrong. I think they decided we were dangerous before we even arrived. The dinner continued awkwardly. A few brave aliens approached their table to introduce themselves, but the conversations were stiff and formal. No one would maintain eye contact with the humans for more than a few seconds. No one sat close to them. Things got worse when a young Thrixil server came to clear their plates. The insect alien was carrying a heavy tray loaded with dishes. As it reached for Jake's bowl, one of its legs caught on the table edge. The tray tilted and dishes crashed to the floor with a loud clatter. The server froze completely. Its multiple eyes locked on Chris, who was closest. Its mandibles clicked rapidly in a pattern that the translator didn't even try to interpret. The entire dining hall went silent again. Chris stood up slowly, his hands visible and open. Hey, it's okay. Accidents happen. He bent down and started picking up the fallen dishes. The Thrixil remained frozen, its body trembling. Chris carefully placed the dishes back on the tray and held it out. No harm done, see? The server grabbed the tray with shaking appendages and ran from the room as fast as its 6 legs could carry it. Several other aliens stood up and left as well. Jake looked around the dining hall at all the staring faces. Some looked curious, but most looked afraid. What was going on? Why were they being treated like monsters? After dinner, the humans returned to their quarters in silence. Lisa immediately pulled out her tablet and started searching through the station's public database. An hour later, she called the others into her room. I found something, she said, her face pale. It's in a restricted section, but my clearance level let me access part of it. Look at this. She turned the tablet so they could see. The file was labeled Deathworld Species Protocol and Safety Procedures. Deathworld? Karen asked. What does that mean? Lisa scrolled through the document. The Galactic Council classifies planets by danger level. Most of the species here evolved on what they call Class 3 to Class 5 worlds. Stable climates, moderate gravity, peaceful ecosystems. She looked up at them, her eyes wide. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating ever recorded for a planet with intelligent life. That's insane, Chris said. Earth isn't that dangerous. To us, Lisa replied. But look at this comparison chart. Earth's oxygen levels are toxic to most species. Our gravity is 2 to 3 times higher than average. Our weather patterns include hurricanes, tornadoes, and blizzards that would be considered apocalyptic events on most worlds. And that's just the environment. The database lists Earth's predators, diseases, and natural disasters. To them, we're not from a planet. We're from hell. Jake felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. So they think we're dangerous because we come from a dangerous world? Not just dangerous, Lisa said quietly. They classify us as predators. Apex predators. They have an entire section on human evolution, our biology, our history. They've been watching us for a long time, Jake. And they're terrified of what they've seen. The room fell silent as the truth sank in. Earth wasn't being welcomed into the Galactic Council as equals. They were being treated like dangerous animals that needed to be carefully managed and contained. Karen stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see aliens going about their business on the station, living their lives in a peaceful civilization that had never known the struggles humanity took for granted. Tomorrow we meet with the full council, she said. I think it's time we got some answers about why they really invited us here. Jake nodded. Agreed. If they think we're predators, they're going to learn that predators don't like being caged.